lecture. Thank you so much for coming. Today we are super lucky to have Malon Al-Jaboori here as our artist. Malon is drawn to the human condition and thought-provoking art that forces its viewer to feel a sense of vulnerability. His work explores how closeness can both ground and unravel us, revealing the state of constant negotiation between connection and loss. It is less about depicting figures and more about revealing the inner pulse of being, the sensation of living within conflict, desire, and the endless attempt to reach toward another. So I'm super excited about this because I don't know a lot about his process, but I love his work. So let's give him a nice warm welcome.
Thank you. Can everyone hear me? I don't think I really want to talk into the mic, but I can if it helps to hear me a little bit louder. But yeah, my name is Malon Al-Jaboori. I'm a self-taught artist. Recently moved to Portland about 3 or 4 years ago. My background is I used to be really involved in sports. I played professional rugby for about 10 years for the national team. So that was kind of my upbringing, and I think a lot of my work has that energy. Obviously, brushstrokes and all that. There's a lot of energy and rawness into my work. But yeah, as far as my background, like I said, I played rugby for about 10 years. And if you don't know about rugby, it's a very European, very popular sport abroad. Not so much in America, but it's very popular. It's like, I want to say it's the World Cup in rugby is the third highest, I guess, populated as far as attendance in the world outside of the FIFA World Cup and the Olympics. So outside America, it's really a big deal, really a great sport. But that's when I would say, looking back now, that's when I kind of realized my desire to express, because rugby is a very, very hyper masculine sport. There's no room for really anything else because there's no pads. It's football, but with no pads if you're not familiar with the sport. So it's very quick going. There's no time to think. But as far as like the energy and the environment, it's very suppressed. I found as my career moved forward, and I kind of started gravitating towards other hobbies or other things that occupied my mind to get away from, I guess, the hyperfixation of physical, like fighting in a way of rugby. So just a little bit how I got into more of my artistic process and journey. In 2021, I got the opportunity to move to the UK, mostly for rugby. I had a contract with a team in West London. Then I kind of found myself, as time went, I didn't really connect with my teammates on a deeper level. I found other interests, like, I don't know, like drawing or going to the museum. And very, like I said, rugby, they don't want to do those things, kind of. It's a very hyper-masculine environment, which is fine. I think I gravitated towards that for a reason, because it's a physical sport, and I kind of enjoyed that, to being able to exert force, obviously in a competitive game. So I enjoyed my time doing that, but I think as time went on and I grew up, I kind of wanted to find some sense of expression outside of just such a physical sport. So I moved to London in 2021, right after the pandemic, or I guess during the pandemic. So that was challenging in itself, but then I noticed that all these museums were free. And like I said, I don't have a big background in arts. When I grew up, my brother, who adjunct here for a brief time, Malon Al-Jaboori, he was kind of the creative graphic designer in our family. So like I didn't really bother with that growing up. It's something I didn't really take interest in looking back now. And it's funny looking back now because that's all I do now is part of my life and what I want to become and what I want to do with my spare time. But yeah, so I found out like the Tate Modern, they're all free museums. And coming from Oklahoma, where I was born and raised, art wasn't really, I say, the top of the list of what you wanted to do in public projects or public environments or spaces where you can go look at art that I was aware of myself. So when I moved to the UK, being from Oklahoma, I thought this was like the craziest thing ever. That I could just go in these buildings and walk around and look at this stuff. And I know there's museums and galleries in Oklahoma, but I just didn't, in that space, I didn't realize that was there because I wasn't interested in that. So I moved to UK. Then I started going to the Tate Modern, White Cube, a lot of these museums that I know more about now. It gave me a sense of a space where I could feel like I could be myself and kind of let things out that I feel like that were kind of trapped inside me, that I didn't have the space in rugby or with my teammates, because it was all about how can I perform on the field, or because like, it's just like any other professional job, like I have a contract, then I'm always judged on my ability to do something on the field, which has its impacts on me through my art. But along with rugby, I moved so much. I've been in Portland almost 3 years now. I'm based out of Portland, so I lived there almost 3 years now, and this is the longest place I've lived without moving since I was 17. I think that speaks a lot as far as I lived all over the world. I lived in China, Australia, some parts to do with rugby, but some parts I would say odd jobs or odd opportunities to experience these different cultures. South Africa, China, and like Hong Kong, I lived there. So it's like I was so fixated and I gravitated towards seeing different perspectives of life through rugby. And that kind of how my art shaped itself, of being able to experience different cultures, different ideas, especially being from Oklahoma. I don't know if anyone's from Oklahoma or have been there. I don't know, it's very, I guess from my perspective, very sometimes narrow-minded outlook of life. And I think my travels, which I'm grateful for, has introduced me to ways that other people think and how they be and different upbringings and different faces of adversity and all that stuff, and kind of how I want to see the world I live in. So I spent time in London, and I one of the first artists I got introduced to, like many people in today's young artists, I think I got some of my color fixations from Basquiat. I think obviously he has a lot of impact on today's art. My brother introduced me to Basquiat when I was about 24, 25. And like I said, I didn't really have any idea who he was outside of his art and his pictures. And I knew he was a black man, so like that kind of gravitated towards me personally. But I didn't know anything much about him. Then I was so fixated on his color and his expression and his words, kind of pulled me to him. But fast forward, moving back to the States, I moved to Houston to continue my rugby after living in London for about a year. Then that's when I moved to Houston, that's when I really started to start painting, really. It was very organic and raw. And at the time, I would only paint on one big piece of plywood I got for maybe $5. And I would just keep painting on that one piece. And that's kind of how you see some of the images. I'll go back and forth. That's how I kind of create some of my layering when I first started painting. It wasn't really about the end result. It was more about the process. And it's maybe hard to tell in the images, but I would write as if I'm journaling, like on a piece of paper. I would write words with oil pastel or anything that I would journal so I can see the words that I'm feeling. And it helped me, sit with them more and put them somewhere rather than being, I guess, trapped inside. So you can maybe tell of the layering in some of my images that I'll spend hours, or it'd be 10 paintings behind one painting. And I think a lot of artists do that. So I don't want to say this is like the first of its kind or anything like that, but I think that's kind of how I started practicing essentially my art and getting to where I am now. Um, this is a recent piece I've done. It's 4x8, so 4 feet by 8 feet. So it's pretty large work that I like doing. I think it gives me the space, then the ability to express and release who I want to. And like Kendra said, I'm very, um, not obsessed, but I'm very interested in human condition and how we interact with one another. And obviously, there's a lot going on socially and everything with the world. And I feel like in my art, I feel all that. And I want to portray that in my work because I just like work that question things and that challenges the viewer to really look within themselves and how they are within the community and how they are with people who are not, I would say, similar or from the same background. So I really I want that to convey in my work to challenge the viewer to really feel their place in their own community and how they're coming off and how we connect with one another, even though we may be different in many ways. So yeah, like I said, I've been experimenting. I have no really very intuitive how I paint. I don't really like to have a plan. As far as my color palette, honestly, it's kind of hard for me to explain. I just think that we have, as a painter, as humans, we have the ability to actually hold paint and let's say you have a favorite color, and we get to maneuver and play with that. And I think that's the privilege of being human, that we get to do this. We get to have these colors that we really like, whether it's a color of a clothing or a building, we can literally grab that color and get it, then maneuver it to where we want. And I think that's just like, it's very simple and it can sound silly, but I think that is a great thing that not everyone utilizes. And I'm appreciative that I get to use any color I kind of want and to play with it and be with it in my studio. But yeah, so like I said, a lot of my work is evolving around. It's not like I purposely try to make some figures in my work. I think they naturally come out. Like I said, it's very intuitive of how I paint. But I really do want to convey a sense of being human, and there's challenges and joys in life as being human. But I think I kind of lean towards I want the viewer to question their existence as far as connecting and creating community. And sometimes that is a challenge for a lot of people. And I think since I've been grateful to live in so many places and around the world. I have that sense of perspective that we're not the same, but we can still connect on a deeper level. And I think art has really done that for me. Some say, yeah, I think there's always, like I said, there's a sense of struggle in some of my work. And I think I looked as it is, I want to challenge, like I've been saying, challenge the viewer to really think about where they are. And yeah, I think that's the biggest. And I think since I've moved so much in my life, I'm drawn to these figures. Because, like I said, I would live in London for a year, then I moved back to Houston on a week's notice. So I had to pack my whole life up in a week's notice to move back to Houston. Then that's a normal thing in the rugby career because it's such a, I mean, people say it's like I'll play professional rugby, but it's not like I'll do it for money because rugby is not a high-paying job. I'll tell you that first. It's not. It's more of a passion. And I remember I lived in San Diego before I moved to London, and I moved there on a 2 weeks' notice. So I had to pack up home all my life in San Diego to move to London in a week's notice. I got a ticket before I even told my family that I was moving to London. This is during the pandemic. So things can happen so quick. And I think why I'm drawn to figures and gestural movements is because I never really got to settle in where I lived for longer than 6 months to a year. Then I will have to leave again. So I think that's why I'm drawn to depicting and drawing all these bodies, and they're not obviously full like bodies, but there's some movements and some gestural bodies that really come off to me as like the struggle to connect, because my job I chose, my career I chose, is to move so much and not being able to set ground and like build a community. And I'm really grateful to be in Portland and joining Blackfish Gallery. It's a collective out in downtown that's been operating since, I want to say, 77, so it's been 47 years. And I'm very grateful. Like, words really can't express how grateful I am to be a part of that community, especially as a self-taught artist. There's a lot of really great artists there, and I've learned a lot from directly with some of my colleagues and indirectly just being in the same space and hearing them talk. And obviously each month we change shows, so I'm in the installation committee and I help hang the new show. And so I learned a lot as far as the other parts of being an artist rather than just your work itself. Connecting, and I know every art is not for me. Obviously I'm more gravitating towards human condition and thought-provoking art, but I really joining Blackfish and being more in the art scene in Washington and Oregon has really drawn me to other types of art that I like, that I didn't really know that existed or even that I would like. So that's just kind of a brief of why I think collectives and Blackfish for me personally have been a huge help with me in my art and how I look at art. But yeah, like so I said, a lot of my images are very intuitive color-wise. It's almost as simple as if I'm painting and it's very silly to say, but let's say if I can't get the lid off one paint, then I'm just gonna go move on to the next. Like I'm so excited, I should say, to just paint. So I'm not really, I need this color and I'm gonna mix color. I just go for it. I put everything on the canvas, and I just kind of figure it out from there. I don't want to waste time, because I do have a full-time job. It's not like I treat painting as a full-time job essentially, but I do have a normal job, and I use that work week to fuel me to paint on the weekend, from just like daily life experiences. We all have good days. We all have bad days. So I use that fuel during the week, whatever kind of week I'm having or day I'm having, to go to the studio on the weekend, and I'll spend hours and hours and hours painting. And I've been getting better. I try to work on multiple things at once, because I've run into not the problem, but overworking things, and that's something I'm learning. Maybe I just need to go home and sleep for a little bit and come back to it. Let's see. So yeah, that's kind of how these images are very, there's a lot of energy to them, but I feel like long as when I know I'm done, I take time to look at it. Then if I know that it brings me a certain sense of feeling that I know it can relate to other people, and maybe it can be a bit cathartic feeling, but I kind of want that in my art, because like I said, I want to challenge people and how they think about connectivity and helping each other, and also the struggle of being human, and also the joys of connection and not taking it for advantage. But yeah, like I said, I work pretty big. I've been trying to experiment with smaller things. I just think that it's a struggle because I'm so used to exerting a lot of force because of rugby background that I feel like if I'm doing smaller works, I feel very limited. But it's something I want to, like I say, get better at, because I think that's just very subjective and what's good and what's bad. But I think it's a challenge. So every time I always challenge myself to use muted colors or to do less lines and all that. So it kind of varies on what I'm actually feeling at the moment. And this is probably one of I would say my favorite works that I've done, because it just encapsulates everything that I want my paintings to do. Obviously the color palette, I would say people tell me this is more of a joyous color palette than I usually use, because the pinks, yellows, but there's also a sense of, I guess, struggle in there. And I just like that aspect of the texture and the small gestural human parts that all kind of come together. Um, but yeah, I brought one piece in that I'm currently working on. I'm more than happy to come view it close if you want. Um, so I try to be more less intuitive with some of my work as I continue to move on. Like I'll paint a background, a base, then try to incorporate, instead of painting on top, I want to paint on top rather than creating that as I just like abstractly keep going. I kind of want to challenge myself on some of my figurative stuff, but then again, also always, I take art very serious in like my process, but I think like I'll paint over works that I think are good, but I'll paint over them because I think I kind of have a fearless approach because I just make more, and I think there's no. I mean, sometimes I do. I won't say I regret it, but sometimes like, oh, I took a picture of it. Then I kind of like that. I should have. That's just like a learning lesson I take, and I don't try to be too serious or too hypercritical of myself because I can just make more, and that's what we have ability to do as humans and living in time now. We can just make more, and I think that has really challenged me and slowed me down in some ways when I want to get into more detailed work or I'm really trying to do something. Cause I don't really draw. I went to my first, I want to say Laura Swigden, she, I think attended here or does some modeling here for the figure drawing classes. And she brought me to my first figure drawing class out in Portland. And I really enjoyed it. It's like my first time really being in that space. And because I don't find myself much of a drawer as I thought I did. And so like, it kind of helps me get a sense of the gestural repose positions that I want to portray in my art. But yeah, like I said, very intuitive, very organic and free-flowing when I'm in the studio. But yeah, I mean, I'm open to any questions or anything like that as far as my work and my process. Yeah.
I can't tell from here if you're working with oil paint or acrylic paint.
Acrylic paint, sorry, yeah. All acrylic. I use oil pastels, but mostly acrylic paint.
And that gives you the ability to be really fast.
Yes, yeah. So I love. I want to get into oils eventually, but I want things to dry. I want things so I can make layers and make layers. I think I would get very frustrated with oil. But it's something I do want one day to get into. But I love how quick acrylic will dry, and I can just keep working. I really don't have. I'm working on my patience in some ways, but I'm just so excited when I get in the studio. I don't even like get dressed. I just like start painting. Then I kind of sort out how I want my space to be or feel at that time, because I'm just so eager to start painting.
I have a question that
Yeah.
built on that. So you said you paint on the weekends
Mhm.
and the evenings. Can you speak a little bit more about your what a day in the studio looks like for you? Like when do you get there? Do you listen to anything?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
I should have mentioned, like, music is a massive help to let me to feel like to express, to be vulnerable with myself, and a lot of self-reflection. A lot of ambient soundscapes. I don't really like lyrics in my music when I paint because I think that kind of makes my mind. I don't want to think what the artist is saying. I want to have my own words and my own dialogue with myself. So I think some of those, like, I listen to a lot of pianos, recitals, and a lot of organ, a lot of like I wouldn't say everyone loves like ambient music and like that. It can feel like it's deep and it's very emotional. And I like listening to that type of music when I paint. It's almost like a part of me. But as far as studio, I spend on the weekend, like if I'm having not the ideal week, I'll do one day during the week after work to come paint, just to reset and kind of say I get to do this, and I want to use all the time I can because I'm grateful for the space I have. So I'll go in on the weekend I go 6 a.m. I'm pretty early bird, 6 a.m. to about noon. And like I said, as soon as I get there, I start painting. I don't really plug my speaker in. I don't really do anything. I just start painting because I want to utilize my time as much as possible. So I get there a few hours. Sometimes it's right by Forest Park, Montgomery Park, so I really get to enjoy taking a break. As I've learned, I should probably take a break and let things breathe, go take a hike, or do a small walk in the neighborhood to come back. So I definitely utilize my surroundings and the area that I'm in to get a little break from it, because a lot of my images are a lot to take in, and I think that's why I kind of start color blocking sometimes with my work, because I found it's like sometimes it's overstimulating for me to look at them and to analyze them. So I've been incorporating some fields of color that really lets the viewer settle a little bit, then go back into it if they want to. But yeah, normal studio day is, and another thing I should mention that's really important in my work, I rotate when I paint the canvas or whatever I'm painting on. So, and that kind of helps me, like for example, the big one, I mostly painted this vertically, so the right side is the top. But my studio, this is 8 foot long, so it can't really stand in my studio. So I gotta do it horizontally. And I usually, when I rotate so much, it's a lot to rotate this, it takes a lot of effort, but I rotate and that gives me, I don't know, I think I get bored with one orientation, and if I start an arm or something that looks like a leg, and I keep rotating it, that's someone else's leg later down the road, or someone other part of the body. This is titled Greed Around Our Necks, and I think it just, the rotation allows me to depict certain aspects and connect. It's almost like a struggle of bodies trying to really find each other and connect further. And that's why I really love rotating my work. And I do that, sometimes I do it a little bit too much because I can never, it's kind of hard because I can never really, when I want to have a show, what orientation am I showing this in or what? And I will get frustrated if I pick this and like 2 weeks later, I don't like that orientation anymore. So it's kind of like a pro and con, but I really like it because it challenges me to, in that challenge, it helps me really connect, and I want all these figures and gestural movements to connect in some type of way. And when I do that, when I rotate, it allows me to do that as much. Some I don't really rotate on. This is a really good one. It kind of changed the whole aura and energy of the painting when I rotate. So yeah, studio day, I will spend maybe 5-6 hours, take a break, and I'll literally 3 days a week because I have Mondays off. So I would paint from Saturday to Monday. I'm in the studio for about 6 hours. Sometimes I take a break, but yeah, I just very so fixated and interested in and I think the best thing is I would use recycled wood panels, and they weren't the prettiest to paint on. And I just think that we get so fixated on it has to look great as far as presentation and showing stuff. I think paint as much as possible. That's what I kind of learned. I have, on my studio, I probably have like maybe 70 paintings, and they're all big, like they're all 4x4s or 4x8s. I'm trying to be better, like I said, at painting smaller. I'm gonna run out of room eventually, but I just kind of keep producing regardless of I'm showing it or not. I don't think it really matters about that. I think it's more about, it's just like in rugby, if I wanted to get better at passing with my left hand and my right hand, I would have to do it, or you're not gonna get better. And I think it could be easy to be so fixated on how it looks to the public eye as far as you want it framed, you want it all that. I think just work as much as possible if it's what you want to do. And I think I definitely do that. And especially with time, when I moved here, I had 2 jobs. And it's also challenging. I think everyone knows that, especially the time and age we live in. And before I go to my second job as an overnight job, I would go in the studio and paint because this is why I'm doing this. I didn't have a second job for fun. No one wants to work a lot. So I would go to the studio every night before I get my second job just to keep me motivated. And like, this is why I do this, because I can do this, I get to do this. So that's just like another, like how the human condition drives my work. I try to utilize my time and space as much as possible. But yeah. Blackfish Gallery, yes. So it's in the Pearl. I want to say it's on 13th and Everett, downtown Portland. So yeah, it's a collective that's been around for a long time. I want to say it's definitely one of the longest in Portland as far as collective. And I want to say, I would say a challenge in the U.S. It would challenge collective operating gallery space. Like I said, 7 years. But I found that when I moved here, like I moved from Montana, I was working with, I was coaching rugby in Montana in schools around the state. And I just kind of, when I was still paying at the time, but it wasn't as serious as I am now. And I kind of just like, I was moved to Portland. I think that's a good place for me to become an artist and to get involved in the art community. So when I moved here, I literally, as simple as I emailed every art thing or every space I could imagine that just from on the internet. Cause I didn't know any better. Like I said, I didn't go to art school. I didn't do any of that stuff. So I don't know any better. I think that you don't know until someone says no. And the worst thing someone is going to say is no, or they're not going to answer, and that's okay. I think my fearless approach to that is I played rugby and trying out for the Olympics, the Tokyo Olympics, and I've been like, I won't say judged my whole life, but I've been critiqued about how I perform on the field. So if someone talk about art, it wouldn't really, like I take it in because I think you can learn things from a lot of things. You can learn things from a lot of different people, especially in the art world, but it's not gonna, I've had this is art, this is fun, this is supposed to be enjoyable. And I think when I had a job where it dictated my livelihood and my income and where I live, then that's way more serious than just me painting and someone saying no to me or not liking my work or anything like that. But Blackfish, there's an interview process with Blackfish, and obviously they have to be attracted to your work or things that they can be in that space. So there's an interview process. There's 32 members now. So they all vote to bring you in to interview, to potentially become a member. So I got accepted to do an interview, and this is an example of like how motivated I am. You had to bring work in, and I brought my biggest pieces. I brought 2 4x8s, and the interview was only 10 minutes. So I had to rent a truck or rent a van or whatever, because I can fit in my car, just to bring these big pieces in. And I think that just showed how I want to be around this community, and I want to be involved in art in Portland. So I rented a van. I brought by myself, 2 big pieces just to interview for 10 minutes to talk about my work and show them. And I think that had an impact on my eagerness to be involved and my seriousness about, not that like I need to show work, and I think art has brought me to a sense of place, or a sense of self-reflection and a desire to connect with people than I thought I would ever in my life, especially playing rugby and moving 6 months here, 6 months there, moving there for 2 weeks or moving there for a year. I think that just like shows that I want to do this. And so yeah, Blackfish, I got the interview and I got accepted as a vote. I think it's you need more than 75% of the gallery to be accepted. Then that's kind of, I've been with them since, and I've learned a lot indirectly and directly from a lot of my colleagues. And some of these people are Michael Cutchton. He was in a Reed art department for, I want to say like 50 years. So I learned so much, rather than we have some special connection or not. I learned a lot from them indirectly. They're hanging their show, their artist talk, and I get to meet. Now I'm going to way more artist talks around Portland than I would have imagined I did. And that's how you meet people organically and connect people on the art level. Rather than not to really to promote my art, I think there's so many art that I didn't really type of art I didn't really like or was gravitated towards because it wasn't in my environment. I didn't know about it. So that's kind of a rough outline of Blackfish, which is, like I said, a great experience for me.
And I think a lot of people don't know the difference between a collective and another kind of gallery.
Yeah.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Like part of the benefit of collective is that you've also like you have gallery hours. You have to be there.
Yeah.
So you get to meet people and talk about the artwork.
Yeah.
Gallery space, right? And
Yeah.
also, like you said, you get more input on like the trajectory of where the gallery.
For sure. So like, yeah, there's committees. Like I'm part of it. Like I said, installation committee at Blackfish. So every month, just like every first Thursday, and I don't know if you've been to first Thursday around Portland, but we rotate show every month for each artist. And such a thing about a collective compared to like a commercial gallery. obviously, like everyone knows, commercial gallery more, I don't want to say more cutthroat, but it's more transactional. Obviously, they care about their artists and do artist talks and all that. But collective, you have the freeness of, if I want to do installation work, and I never done installation work, I could. But I kind of know what I want to do with my art, but that's the freedom of being a collective. And I like Blackfish because I still think you have a freedom as an artist to explore and experiment, but I still think they have a professionalism about them that I still think that resonates in how I want my art to, and the space is beautiful like they've ever been, and how my art to be shown. I think that's the freedom of being in the collective. If I wanted to experiment, if I want to do drawings in my next show, I can. There's no pressure. I got to produce this. This is how I am an artist, so I got to produce this. Especially if like collectors buy work in like more commercial galleries, and trust me, I'm still learning as I go as well. Like more commercial galleries will say this, and you can't really switch. You can switch up your art, but like that impacts transactional things and expectations of you as an artist. And like I said, every gallery is different. Just what I've learned and seen, talking to some colleagues, but. That's about the collective. I'm a part of, like I said, the installation committee, and I'm on the PR team. So I help with posting the artists, getting the word out there with the community, and I think that's what's special. Because I want community. That's why I joined Blackfish. I want to show my work, and I want to be better artists. But community is the number one thing why I joined there, and that's what I find at Blackfish and being a part of collective. Yeah. Yeah, so as far as color, I'm still learning why I'm using all these colors. I like vivid colors, and honestly, when I first started painting, I would take with everything I could get. If I had free paint, I would go down to estate sales down in Southern Oregon, and get paint and get supplies there because that's the only way I seem like without spending so much money on art supply. I know art supplies is expensive. Now I'm more able to be picky with my colors and what type of paint I get. But it's honestly, it's so random. Especially with this one, when I first started painting, I would scrape a lot, and you can kind of tell that's how I got some of my texture. I would use the oil pastel to mark make. Then I would put acrylic down there, dry quickly, then I would just scrape it off. And that's how I got the textures here. But as far as I think I just experiment. It's not really, I'm not stuck to one palette or a certain, obviously I like bright colors, so you can tell some of these works, but this is way different from the other ones. So I kind of just experiment. I think you don't really know what you like until you do it, and I kind of take that approach. As I keep going, maybe I should tone down some of the muted colors or some of the vividness. Like I would say, sienna, like an umber, like that's like one of my favorite colors, and I think that's a really classical color that a lot of people use. That's one of my favorite colors, but as far as how I'm picking before I start painting, I don't pick, I just this is what I have, I'm gonna use it. Like these blue ones I have a show coming up at Blackfish in June. It's a Black Matter show curated by a curator named Tammy Joe, and it's all black artists and for June in Blackfish. So. And I have a lot of blue, and most of the show is blue, because I had blue at the time. It's not like I go on my way, I want this color. I just kind of go with what I have and what I can get. But I'm sure as I keep going, I'll be more picky with my color and more critical of myself. But I still want to keep that not serious, but very serious with my art process. Yeah, I don't go with the outline at all. Yeah, it's just, I think my mark making helps. I outline while I paint, and that's why I guess it could be a little bit chaotic with colors. Like some of the pastels, some of the mark making on this one, and that kind of helps me outline. But I don't have, like, I didn't wake up this morning when I started painting this, like I want all these figures, to me I see figures, to be disjointed and connected. I just kind of just go, and the music kind of guides me into what I want to do. As I get on, I can make shapes that look like heads, circles, and circular little shapes, And as I keep going, I layer and I layer and I rotate and I rotate. That could be someone's leg at the end or someone else's head later when I draw their body. I kind of let the art paints itself for me, the canvas paints for me. Then I kind of use my mind of, so like, for example, like I have friends that come over look in my studio and I tell them I see all these figures and there's no figures there. I just, what my mind is imagining, then I try to like draw them or paint them out on the canvas. So like I see like 3 people, 4 people in this painting, but some people may see something totally different. And that's kind of how I use my mind to paint more than anything. Like there's like 4 people in this. And it's kind of like I just utilize my eyes to paint it for me rather than it actually being on canvas. Then I do little small mark makings to bring it more into life. Like the one I brought in today, to me, there's clearly 5 people, but that's more obvious in some of my work than some of the images I've shown up here of depicting figures in my work.
Can I ask about your titles? How do you come up with your titles?
So titles are very hard for me because like I said, I spend hours and hours painting, and I don't think one word or let's say if I start with the title, oh, this sounds like something I want to do, then in the end, my titles could be paragraphs because there's so much going on and so much emotion behind it. So it's very hard for me to be finished with a title. I think at the end, I always look at my art and what does it tell me? What does it depict? Like I said, this is greed around our necks. And I think vertically, the right side, there's someone holding someone by the head or by the neck. And horizontally, you could kind of see it as well. The upper right, middle, the 2 like tannish beige color are arms essentially. And music has a big influences of books I read. I take words from different books I read. Not necessarily it has to depend on type of book, or like things that like kind of gravitate towards me in an emotional, tender vulnerability aspect, and like a very social aspect as well. Sometimes I want my title, I think titles are really important of how people take the art, and I wanted this one to be more like this what that is, and you really can't have your own interpretation because the title says so much. And I learned that from some of my colleagues of like title means a lot to the viewer. And some of them I kind of go into music I like or like poems I read or certain words or certain feelings and song titles that I listen to. And some of them have a lot of ambiguity in some of my titles, but then I also think they still fit in a way. And it's kind of random, but it's also kind of natural how they come with it. But I would say that's probably the most difficult part of my paintings is naming them and portraying what I want to portray or not portray. Yeah.
You said in the beginning you scraped a lot.
Mm-hmm.
What other techniques do you use?
I mean, techniques. I mean, I scrape not as much now. I'm more trying to do some brush work, more work like that, and like not using so much line dilation. But I still obviously go what I want to do, and I don't really try to like have an outside view of what I should or shouldn't do. But no, I mean, I don't really use water when I paint, which sounds kind of crazy. Every time I tell people that, they be like, I use the same brush, and I don't know, I keep going. I just don't really stop. It's kind of hard to explain. You kind of have to be there to see. I use like 1 or 2 brushes, then I wipe it off a little bit, but I won't mix colors really. I just kind of just paint. It's probably because I want to get more into that because I think I could make better work or I see better work, but I'm just so eager and interested in just to keep painting. I don't have time. I don't want to go to the sink and do all this and make a palette and make all these colors. I'm just too eager to start. But it's something I guess I'm working on. But as far as techniques, I just don't really, I just kind of do everything on the canvas, then figure it out from there. Yeah.
When you start painting like a painting and you're like a bit of the way in, if you have like, do you start having like a solid idea of the emotions that are being
I think there's a point of when I'm painting that I'm in a good place where I can start being a little bit more picky. And that's kind of has happened recently, like the last few months. I can be more picky about, oh, I think this needs this color, or I think I want to tone it, I want to mute this, or I want to really make this pop out more. I definitely, although I'll say it's very intuitive, it is very intuitive especially when I start. But there's a time in my process that I like, all right, let me just take time to what I want to convey and what I want to bring out more, and that's when I could start being more picky with the colors I choose, or color blocking if I want certain things to pop out way more. But there's a time and place where I feel like I need to just look at it a little bit longer, then try to, oh, I see what I'm conveying, I see what's coming out to me, and try to really bring that out more with my work. So yeah, there's a time and place where I'm more picky and it's less intuitive and more like I'm making critical decisions on how I want things to come across. Yeah.
You said, I forget at what point, but you said you were trying to work on multiple pieces at a time.
Yeah.
Does that ever influence them so that they're kind of like similar, or are you able to like disconnect one piece from another?
No, they're definitely the same because I painted this one and the one I brought together obviously because of blue. So I don't really, I have maybe 4 or 5 that I will work on, and they all, if I'm using that blue that day, I'm using blue for all of them. It's not like I'm changing because I'm just maybe too lazy to like stop or like clean up or anything like that. It could be something that is just silly, and I'm using blue that day, and sometimes I have to not finish a painting, but get to a place where the next day I probably won't use that same color because I didn't pick that color today. So it's kind of like random, but I will work on 4 or 5 at a time, maybe 3, and kind of use the same color palettes that I'm working with. But I have to get to a place where I'm happy with it before I leave because the next day it might be a totally different color palette, then I might not like it. But then the next day I do the same thing over again. But I've been getting, like I said, I've been getting more challenging and putting parameters around my process just to see what could come from it. Not that I have to do this, or just like experimentation, because that's how you find things out. You just do it, then you know if it doesn't work, if you don't like it, or yeah, you're supposed to just kind of go for it, and you just figure it out. Thank you. Yeah. Yeah, I just want to say thank you for having me. I appreciate you taking the time, and yeah.